We're back. Been a minute.
It's been a long minute.
It's been a minute since we were with you guys. It's my wife and I, Molly. She has in the meantime had a birthday. And she looked lovely. Makes 42 seem easy and a breeze. I'm going to do a couple of sessions on conversations, conversing, and connecting in conversation.
Welcome to Shoots&Roots, a practical video series that explores the joys and challenges of raising diverse kids through the different seasons of their lives.
I'm going to give away my age now. I'm
40?
I'm a young 43. And the secret to looking young is to just keep putting weight on so that you don't show any wrinkles.
And keep going grey.
The actual reason I'm going to show my age is when I was younger, I watched Noord for Noord. Can you believe it? But there was a song that Johan Stemmet did a cover of, and it was, you had to finish the lyric, the line. And he started by saying, I talk to the tree, and then the song went.
I have no idea.
Well, she's not getting any money. Geen 50 randjies nie. But I happen to know the next part, which is, but they don't listen to me.
Oh, I do know it.
You do know. I
Yes.
talk to the trees, but they don't listen to me. And sometimes in
I
this,
can see my grand singing it
in this
actually.
little garden of ours, we talk to the trees, but they don't listen to us. We have conversation. And unfortunately, having studied drama and theatre and that is not called a dialogue, that is called a monologue, when nobody speaks or listens to you. And it's probably one of the saddest and most difficult things to do, is to deliver a monologue. It's hectic. The entire weight of that conversation, that impact lies on you as the individual. But that's not what conversation is about, eh? In James 1 verse 19 it says, "Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak," and then of course slow to anger. And they always say, it's interesting why God gave us one mouth and two ears, so that we can be quick to hear and slow to speak.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that we constantly have to remind ourselves as parents is that our kids are individuals and they deserve a conversation, not a talking down to, not a monologue, not an instruction.
Yeah, true. And that is quite a hard thing to master. And because we're dealing with so many different personalities, conversation looks so different with each of our children. For some, you can't get them to stop speaking. For others, it really takes a while for them to speak. And also, it depends on what you're speaking about. Are you speaking about something just frivolous and easy? Or are you speaking about something that you really need to get to the heart of something? I think those conversations can even be a bit harder than the ones that are just light and frivolous, for instance.
And as parents, we fall in the category where we think when we speak, they have to listen. We just want to communicate for them to hear, to listen, and not always to hear
what they have
them,
to say.
you
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
And take the patient approach. But I thought, if you've ever been in a conversation with me, if you've had that privilege, I can jump to many different topics.
You can almost feel like you're in a psychology session when you're in a conversation with your
But also I can tackle and I can jump from one conversation topic to the next if I think I've exhausted that one, I'm happy with that one, move on.
Yeah.
And we can see some of that also coming through in our children, eh?
Yeah.
But that's me as an individual. You as an individual, you'll sit. While you sit, you will think about what is said, take your time to process, then offer statement of, am I hearing you correctly? Ask a probing question, engage the thing.
I find I often have to walk away from a conversation and really think about what was being said before I can go back to that conversation to complete it, if it needs to be completed, correctly, and to make sure that I have understood.
But yet, as parents, we don't give our kids the same grace that we expect in conversation, and we don't even the same grace that we give other adults. Some of our children are same like you and I, but there are many other permutations of how they could deal in conversation. Some could be completely overwhelmed and need to walk away. Some can be witty and quick and easy response, and then have to learn the art of saying sorry in conversation, which is another thing, But there's an individual in the conversation, and hopefully not just yourself and speaking to me, myself, and I. I'll say seek counsel if you're speaking to yourself and answering all the time. But when you are with people and you talk to them, I think the idea and what you should remember, what I remind myself of, is that is a moment to connect with the other individual.
And I do find we do that best when we are not busy formulating a response for our children. I don't know about you, but I've often felt as a mom or as a parent, when my children come to me with a question or something that I need to answer, that there needs to be this immediate response and this answer or this wisdom that I have to impart in the moment. And I've learned to, rather than sit there and formulate my response, because that is what expected from me as a parent, is to really hear them first. So to listen, not listen to respond. And I think also as extroverts, it's hard sometimes to just listen and not listen to respond.
Absolutely.
Because I do believe we like what we have to say and what we have to bring. But I have found if I just sit and listen, then I don't just hear what's being said at the surface, but I'm hearing what they're saying at a heart level. And I think that's important, because then we are also understanding what they are feeling with what is being said. It's not just words that are coming, but they are actually exposing what they are feeling with what they are saying. And when we listen, we get to the feelings as well. It's not always that easy though. I've really had to train myself not to sit and form responses, but to say, can I think about it? Can we pray about it? Can we just give it a day and just mull over what's being said?
Conversation is about connecting. And on a busy day like today, I find myself sitting here feeling rather ashamed, or let me say embarrassed, about how I've treated them. They all came to me this morning already and said, how was this? How was last night? How was the prayer meeting last night? How was the breakfast? How was this? And I just gave them answers. It was good, it was nice, it was pleasant. Because I wanted to cut off the conversation and answer the actual request. But in honesty,
they were looking for connection.
Connecting with me.
Yeah.
And they stepped out of their comfort zone and came and engaged me. And I missed the moment. No, not lost.
Lost,
yeah. But there's, in conversation, a talking and a listening, there's a person that you are willing to connect with relationally. And it doesn't mean that everybody we're going to converse with is going to be our next best friend relationally. But there is a relationship that you need to honor. Even if you talk to the cashier at a shop, there's a business relationship, but it's still a barter relationship, but it's still an exchange.
Absolutely.
How are you? It's funny how many times on calls, when you don't have your true caller, shout out, product placement, true caller, sponsor us please. If you don't have that, you say to people, they say, hello, how are you? And you say, I'm fine. And they say, I'm well, thank you. But I want to say, I didn't ask you. I don't really care in that moment. But we are so trained to just respond with what we seem to think the conversation should.
Yeah, where the conversation is going to go.
How it should flow,
Yes. I'm actually thinking of an example now. A couple of weeks ago, we had a funeral at the facility, and some of the people that were there were family of the people that we were hosting it for, and we didn't know them. So I just went and sat at the table with the one lady, and I started chatting to her and just asking her some questions, really trying to get to know her as a person. And when we got home, Ava came to me and she said to me, "Sure, Mommy, I learned so much from you today on how to start a conversation when it's such a difficult time in someone's life." she said, I watched how you looked at her and you asked her what she does for a living, and you said to her that you're so sorry that we had to meet under these circumstances. And she said to me, I think I would know how to approach someone now when they've just lost someone. And I realized in that moment how we do life, what our children observe in us when we are having conversations, even with other people, teaches them in how to converse. So it's not just the conversations that we are having with them, but even the conversations that they are observing. And regrettably, sometimes our conversations are not nice conversations to see, or conversations that are not executed well. And to know that our conversations are really an example to our children. And it's either a good example or a bad example. And I don't think we're ever going to get it all right. It is an example. And that stood out for me so much. When she said that to me, I didn't even realize she was sitting playing a game on her phone. So I didn't even realize that she was paying attention or listening or...
I'm glad they tackled you on that. Fortunately, around me, they always have a perfect example.
Absolutely.
Of how not to do it.
Yeah, so that was such it actually, I was a little bit taken aback about how much she took notes of that conversation without even being a part of it or even looking at it. She was looking at her phone and just playing a game.
But it's interesting that she's paying attention how to have conversation.
Yes. And that it's important to them to know that.
I think invariably you underestimate your child if you think they are not keen to converse. And we do that often.
Especially, don't you find when they get to their teenage years?
Yeah.
We kind of have the perception that, oh, well, they're in their room because they want to be in their room. And I think they do, but there needs to be a drawing out of them. And just,
I don't know what house you live in, because I try and get them into their room because they hover around my conversation all the time.
That is very true, but I do think it's because we've had a rule or policy in our house, or even a value in our house of we don't sit in our rooms all day by ourselves. We are in a family and we need to do family together. So even just the dinner table at night is a perfect place to start conversations. And I love to see how they do that, How was your day? They know how to start conversations. They know how to really ask someone how they are, to know how they are, not just because that is what is expected of me, as you said just now. Well, this is how the conversation needs to go, so I'm just going to ask how you are. I think it's important.
I think in the next session we'll chat a little bit about how to have conversations, especially with children. We have our youngest one is 7. Our mature one is 23. Our oldest one. And we have 4 in between. And how to carry conversations at their different levels is quite challenging. But also as they mature, it's quite rewarding.
Yeah.
That they can do this. But maybe after this one, you want to reevaluate how you see conversations with your children. Think about, maybe like I did, I missed moments. Never too late to go and say, hey, sorry I missed that moment. Do you still want to talk? Let's have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Or just come and sit and tell me about your day. Listen and make some meaningful noises. Okay.
That's so interesting.
That's interesting. And ask a couple of questions and maybe be vulnerable and step out in that. But the greatest thing I would say is on conversations, remember your child is a person that deserves attention in conversation. Just because they don't know yet how to hold a conversation doesn't mean they don't need it and they don't desire it. It's our duty as a parent to engage them in that and show them the example.
Absolutely.
It's fun.
It is fun.